Hello and welcome. So we just quote in the podcast, but we do more than just quote. This is We Just Quote Wednesday, and today I'll be talking about progression and this week's quote of the week, which will be revealed in the podcast. Make sure you stay at the end to get a clue of next week's podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know exactly when a new podcast comes out, and tell a friend to tell a friend to tell another friend. Now let's get into it. This is the 8th We Just Quoting Wednesday podcast. So this marks 2 months of the podcast, and I wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you to every single one of you. All those who have subscribed, who have liked, who told a friend to tell another friend, commented, contributed their thoughts and ideas, personally told me their thoughts on the podcast, people who have given words of motivation and encouragement, all those listeners, whether you are a regular listener or this is your first time listening to a We Just Quote podcast. I appreciate you all so much, and by doing that you have shown support to the podcast, and I am forever grateful. The marking of 2 months of the podcast has inspired this week's We Just Quote Wednesday, which is about progression. I look at this podcast and I see how far it's come in this 2 months and the progression it's made. The podcast has progressed and is progressing constantly, and it will continue to progress. It started from the bottom and it's working its way up. It's still got a long way to go, but it's progression. Small progression is still progression. And I cannot wait to see where the podcast will be in the next 2 months. To me, this idea of progression is about moving forward. Sometimes starting from the bottom and working your way up, or just starting anywhere and just working up, just building up, bettering yourself is progression. When you build a house, you don't start from the roof, you start from the foundation, the bottom, and you work your way up. When you climb a tree, you don't magically end up at the top, you start at the bottom of the tree and you work your way up. When you are climbing a staircase, you're at the bottom of the staircase and you climb up the stairs, you work your way up. When a plant grows, it starts with the roots and it works its way up. I could give many more examples, but I'm pretty sure you all get the gist. It's about climbing up, making your way up to the top. Remember, slow progression is still progression. Any sort of positive step in the right direction, moving forward, is progression. We are always progressing all the time, but sometimes it's too negligible for us to acknowledge. Steve Jobs. I've mentioned him a lot, but I'm going to mention him again. Steve Jobs has been known as an iconic figure for the establishment of Apple like the biggest company. However, it is extremely shocking to know that $2 billion company with over 4,000 employees has been started with only 2 people in a garage. It is also to be noticed that this great establisher has been dismissed and fired from the company from which he has started his career. Further realizing his potential and capabilities, Steve Jobs proceeded further towards establishing this biggest company, which is famously known as Apple. It's all about progression. Not necessarily starting from the bottom, but working your way up and moving forward. Starting with 2 people in the garage and now a company with over 4,000 employees. Progression. Bill Gates. It was very much important for Bill Gates to heed the lessons of failure in comparison to celebrating the joys of success. This great entrepreneur who has established Microsoft like the biggest software company is a dropout student from Harvard. Furthermore, he has also been known for his self-owned business figure known as Traf Odata, which was one of the biggest failures in history. The entire investment of Bill Gates got vanished, and unfortunately even the education could also not be completed. But the keen desire and passion for the computer programming based stuff led him to establish such bigger software companies with the brand name Microsoft. It's all about progression, starting from the bottom, working your way up. And it doesn't always have to be from the bottom, but it's about moving forward, experiencing failure, but having a dream and a desire to keep on working at it and to progress. From a failing investment to now one of the biggest software companies out there. Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein is a well-known scientist, an extraordinary genius personality, known by almost all of us all over the world due to his great inventions and contributions towards science. He quoted that success is a failure in progress, and someone who has never failed cannot truly be a successful person. During childhood, he suffered from continuous failures. He was not even able to speak fluently till the age of 9, following which he had been expelled from the school. Furthermore, his admission to Zurich Polytechnic School was also not considered. But leading to the ways of success consistently, he proved himself as a renowned gem in the ocean of science and technology and finally won the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1921. It's about progression. Not always starting from the bottom, but working your way up. Taking a failure, but using your own skills, your own talents, proving yourself, and coming out with a Nobel Prize. Einstein couldn't speak fluently till the age of 9, got rejected, but proven himself, progressed, and finally won the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1921. It's about progression. Abraham Lincoln. This great personality, who has also been the ex-president of the USA, has suffered regularly from massive failures year after year. Lincoln failed in his business in the year 1831, after which in the year 1836 he got a major nervous breakdown. Struggling consistently for years, he again failed in 1856 during US presidential elections. Fighting and struggling constantly, he was elected as the 16th president of the USA in 1861 and went on leading towards his way of life. It's about progression. I'm going to keep on emphasizing it. It's about progression, and like most of these progression stories so far, it's been about taking this failure but constantly changing it around and not letting it get you down and progressing even further. Essentially starting from a failure but getting to a tangible success. From failing the US presidential elections to being elected as the 16th president of the United States of America. It's about progression. J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling has been known as the famous author of the most-selling book Harry Potter, who has clearly stated about her failures during a speech ceremony commenced at Harvard. She stated about her unsuccessful marriage life with an entire life in front of living lonely with a jobless situation. Such a difficult situation without a life partner and a job to survive forced her to start a new life as a dynamic author. Her creativity finally led her to the zenith of success. Again, progression. Living lonely, being jobless, but looking at what you have, your resources, seeking an opportunity and progressing. her creativity finally led her to the zenith of success. It's about progression. Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is one of the most renowned basketball players in the sports world history. He was a short height boy early in childhood, due to which he often used to get rejected during the selection process. After being grown up and started playing like a basketball player, he even failed to hit over 9,000 shots and ultimately lost over 300 games for 26 times. He got frustrated a lot, but his dedication and consistency paved his way to success. Jordan got knocked down. His progression was slow. It was still progression. But he was dedicated and he was consistent, and look at the guy now. It's about progression. Slow progression is still progression. It's about progression. And it doesn't have to start from the bottom, but it's about starting somewhere and working up. I've talked about Walt Disney a lot, but I'm going to talk about Walt Disney again. Walt Disney has been known as one of the famous cartoonists and creator of famous cartoon creatures such as Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, etc. He even failed several times in his life. His unsuccessful attempt to join armed forces finally forced him to drop out of the schools and leave his further studies. His innovative Laugh-O-Gram Studios even went bankrupt, and finally, after joining a newspaper agency named Missouri Newspaper, he was fired because of not being creative enough as per the expectations. But look what happened. Look how big the Walt Disney Brothers company is. It's about progression, and Walt Disney progressed. I don't need to say it and emphasize it. You know, how many Disney films have you seen? Have you watched? How many Disney TV shows are part of your childhood? That's progression. Not watching the TV shows, but the fact that you can watch the TV shows is Walt Disney's progression. And it's all about progression. Vincent van Gogh is another guy I have mentioned in another WJQ Wednesday podcast. And Vincent van Gogh is one of the greatest painters and artists, along with world-renowned icons in the whole of history. However, due to continuous failures and misfortunes such as mental health issues and improper bonding in the relationships, forced him to commit suicide at an early age of merely 37. During the entire lifespan, this person sold only one single painting, which revolutionized him in the world of arts and paintings, which is alive today. I don't know about you guys, but I can remember back when I was younger in primary school and would have like art lessons, and Vincent van Gogh's name would always come up, always doing work inspired by him. His work progressed. Yes, his life ended short, and it's unfortunate what happened to him, but his work, his art progressed from only one painting being sold to there being his paintings in museums. That's progression. It's all about progression. Starting somewhere and just bettering yourself and progressing and not letting failures get you down. Stephen King. This name is famous as the most renowned writer all over the world. However, he met several misfortunes and failures during his lifespan. His childhood was spent under the dark capture of poverty, with added misfortunes of getting in under the cover of drugs and alcohol as well. But finally, he kept on concentrating on his writing-based hobby and professionalized it by developing several new writing styles along with new copywriting mechanisms as well. Progression. It's all about progression. And with all these stories, I've emphasized it because I want it to stick and I want you guys to get it. It's about progression, not starting at the top, but making your way and getting there. Progression. This week's We Just Quote. This week's quote of the week. I actually said at the end of last week's We Just Quote Wednesday podcast. I said it is a blessing to be alive. And that is this week's quote of the week. It is a blessing to be alive. So many people have died. We all know someone who has died, whether they were close to us or far away from us, whether it was a celebrity, whether it was somebody you don't directly know, but we all know somebody who has died. Somebody who has left this world and they are no longer with us. They're no longer alive. And sometimes I feel like, in general, people take for granted breath, take for granted this ability to breathe, to be alive, to not necessarily walk around and stand up, but to see another day. I don't know about you, but the fact that I wake up and I see the sun rise and I see another day, I feel blessed. I am blessed and so are you. It's not to say that those who have died were not blessed. It's to say that you are alive and you are present right now and you are living and many of us aren't. It is a blessing to be alive. And I want to take this opportunity to just pause for a moment to remember all those in all of human life, not that just those who have died this year, whether they are close to us or far from us, to remember those who have passed away. It is a blessing to be alive. Every day is a blessing. Every day you wake up and you see the sunrise and know that you have been blessed. Count your blessings. Being alive is one of those many blessings. And this week's quote of the week is simply that. Being alive is a blessing. It is a blessing. And count your many, many, many blessings. Thank you for listening. This has been We Just Quote Wednesday. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell. Do all that good stuff. Look out for mini podcasts in between We Just Quote Wednesdays and stay tuned for next week's We Just Quote Wednesday. If you have any quotes, questions, or topic ideas, email them to wejustquoting@gmail.com. Thank you again for listening, and bye-bye for now. Someone can believe in you, but those words mean nothing if you don't believe in you.